Hi, I'm Rachel Lanier. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And your name is?
Grace.
Your name is Grace. Is that what you like to go by?
Sure. That'd
Okay,
be good.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I want to start off by telling you I'm a student at Eastern Kentucky University. I am doing this interview for a clinical interviewing class that I'm taking. I find that it helps when people are new to the counseling process. It can help to kind of help you feel better about the process by knowing what to expect. And I'd like to go over a couple of kind of housekeeping issues with you to begin with. I'm not sure if you're familiar with our confidentiality policy. What that means basically is that what you say in counseling stays in this room. I'll be taking a couple of notes if that's okay with you, but my notes are kept safe and they are only looked at by my supervisor. And I am also taking a video recording that is for supervisor purposes only. So your information will be kept confidential, and there are a couple of limitations to that I wanted to go over with you real quick. The only situations where that would not apply is if I thought that you were going to harm yourself or someone else, or if I felt that there was an issue with abuse to either elder or child, something like that. That would be an issue where I would break confidentiality. But with that, those exceptions, everything stays in this room. So I want to make sure that I had your permission to record today, if that's all right.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. All right, well, to start off, I'd like to kind of go over what I do as a counselor, so you'll kind of get an idea how I work. I like to kind of first open to understand what your concerns are and why you are coming, and then I'll probably ask you, maybe it might seem like a lot of questions, but I just wanted you to know I'll do my best to kind of keep those to a minimum. And then if you have any questions for me, I'd like to give you an opportunity to ask questions as well. Does that sound okay?
Sounds fine.
All right. Well, tell me what brings you here today, what your concerns are.
Well, when I was young, I was going out with one of my girlfriends, and we went to the hamburger joint, we called it, which was actually then, at that time, it was the Burger King.
Okay.
And while we were there, sipping on our Cokes, the parking lot of that particular place had an island out right in front of the building, and people parked parallel. So we parked, and directly across the island was a series of cars parked. So we're face to face, in other words.
Right, like an old drive-in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And as we are sitting there talking over just our day and what we had done, a man gets out of his car. We're just sort of looking and not really paying that much attention to him. But he got out of his car and he walked to the car next to him and walked around to the passenger side. And at that very moment, he pulled out a gun. And it happened to be warm weather. The window was down, and he shot the man in the head. And he died at the scene. And I later found out that this particular gunman was an older brother of one of my classmates that I had gone to school with, and it was very upsetting, but it has shaped a lot of my ideas about guns and my fear of guns and my not wanting any in my house. And so I still picture it very vividly to this day, and I'm in my 60s.
So it replays some
It
in your
does.
head. Is that a frequent occurrence?
Well, it is, I would say, occasional, and I have always been one of these that has bad dreams at night, and occasionally I'll wake up hearing a gunfire discharge, and it is unsettling.
I'm sure. Hmm. So how do you remember feeling at the time? What was your reaction?
Both of us were just in shock, and my friend was driving that evening, and she just happened to be the daughter of the police chief. So she knew right away that we needed to leave and get back to the safety of our home. So she dropped me off at my home, and I walked in, and I remember telling my mom and my dad what had just happened, and it was just like in slow motion that I actually saw someone die
Someone's life end. Absolutely,
right
that
in
can
front
be
of me.
it can be a very, very life
And
changing.
it was the first time I had ever witnessed anything like that, and I hope I never do again. But it was violent. So
So I hear you saying maybe that was the first experience that you had had with like a true violence, and seeing like the bad side of how someone can just really change, their life can change, and they can make a very bad decision that has dire consequences. So it was kind of your first experience from moving from a childhood innocence to
yeah.
seeing the darker side of life.
It was the first time I had ever seen a gun discharged. I had heard them, but there's a big difference between cap guns that you play with when you're little boys and BB guns. This was a handgun,
Right.
and the man was shot in the head, and at that time there's not a recovery for that, so he died, and he died right there. It was life-changing. It has shaped how I have forever felt about guns.
Okay. Well, so do you still experience today like symptoms of like maybe a replay of how you felt that night? Do you ever have any like panic symptoms, which would mean like racing heartbeat or shortness of breath, or feeling like you have to get away from a situation? Do you ever experience anything?
I do. I have seen police officers, sheriff's deputy, various people in the law enforcement, and I just cringe when I see that gun in their holster. It's kind of a panic, and it is a feeling that I don't want to be around it. I
Right.
want to get as far away from it as possible.
Understandable. Okay. Well, I think I have this right, and correct me if I'm leaving anything out. But so your main concerns are some feelings of I'm not sure how to be around in a situation where there might be a gun present, or I'm uncomfortable with anyone who has a gun on their person. And I also think about, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but do you think about people who have concealed carry permits? Is that something that comes to mind when you're out in the general public? You might think, I wonder if this person has a gun.
It does, and I have, after the fact, discovered people that I know saying to me after the fact, after I've gotten out of a car, that they have a gun under the seat. And it just terrifies me. It really frightens me, because I'm always thinking, well, what if that gun went off? Or what if it wasn't on lock? Or what if it accidentally misfires and
Right.
someone's hurt or killed?
Okay.
And especially some women carry a small handgun in a purse, and what would it take to make that misfire?
Right. If you drop your purse, is there a chance?
Yeah. And there are children around, or you're just out in public, or you're at a playground or in a restaurant. There are a lot of scenarios that would be deemed possible for that gun to discharge.
So a lot of what if.
It's a lot of what ifs.
What ifs.
I'm scared of them. I don't want one in my house.
Okay. So it sounds like some of our goals in working here might be to work on how you can maybe cope, or kind of have those feelings exist but not control you, where your fear is coming up constantly in public situations. Like if you're encounter an officer, or you encounter someone that appears to have a gun on their person, maybe how you can work on coping with those feelings more effectively.
I do.
Okay.
I think so.
All right. Well, I think that we can work on that. Since our time is limited here today, you filled out some forms while you were in the waiting room, and I know they had a lot of questions. I appreciate your patience with that. Those will help me get to know you better, your history and whatnot. And I want to make sure that I haven't missed any concerns. Are those your main concerns that brought you to counseling today?
For the most part, that is.
Okay. All right. What, if I can ask, kind of switching gears here, what solutions have you tried that you have found that maybe have relaxed you some when you're in a public situation? Like if you were out to eat or something and you had an officer come in and sit beside you, is there anything that you have found that helps?
I talk to myself, just silently, but I'm talking to myself, saying, that person is trained, he's been through training to learn how to use that gun appropriately and to have it in a secure position in the holster, and as I talk to myself silently, it does help calm my nerves.
Okay, I like that. That's like a positive kind of self-pep talk. I think that's an excellent skill. That's great. Okay. Well, along those same lines, tell me about some things that you just really enjoy. Might be hobbies, it might be places you like to go, things you like to do.
I love artwork, so when I'm sitting and just with the paintbrush and the palette, I really have a good time doing that. And I like to sew, and I like to walk. So
Okay.
walking my dog is oftentimes a de-stressor.
Good way to clear the head.
It is. I love fresh air, so.
All right. Well, we've just got a couple of minutes left here, but I'd like to give you a little homework assignment. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. It's not too hard, and I promise not to take a grade on it. So I was thinking that maybe you could keep, it's like a symptom journal, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but maybe just for like a 2-3 day time period, you could kind of give me an idea of how often these thoughts are coming up, and you might just jot down a little note about, you know, oh, I was in the middle of lunch, or I was out at the library, and I started noticing that I was feeling uncomfortable or feeling nervous, and I started looking around at people, you know, something like that. Just a little quick note about when it occurred and where you were, or if there was anyone that was with you. And that will just give us something for next time when you come back. That will give us kind of a starting point. Give me a better picture of kind of how often this is occurring, and that will give us something to work with next time. How does that sound?
It sounds fine.
Sounds good? Okay. All right. Well, next time we will look at what you have written together. And I want to thank you for coming and sharing with me today. I know it can be challenging sometimes to come to counseling, and I think that was a great positive step that you took today coming. So I want to let you know I appreciate your openness and good work today.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
It was so nice to meet you. If you want to come on up to the front with me, we will set up something for next time.
Right.
All right.